What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Nash here. Welcome back to the channel. Ooh, excuse me. And today I have an updated DDD deck profile for you guys. Yeah, it's been a while since I've worked on this deck, and I realized there's actually a few cards in the archetype that they're actually really good. I don't know why I didn't realize it. So I took some cards out. I put a few into the main. The extract is about the same with the exception of the Baron, which is actually in the side deck, which I'll get to that a little, later on in the video. And speaking of the side deck, I completely switched it up a bit, mainly because I realized that there are some cards that actually prevent this deck from popping off, so I had to get cards that basically ensure that your plays go through. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this video. If you guys do, and you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and follow me on all of my social media, including my Instagram, because I always post the deck lists on my Instagram. All the links will be in the description below. And if you guys have any fan mail that you guys want to send me, and you guys want me to open it up on the channel, all the info will also be in the description as well. Let's get straight into it, kicking things off. Obviously, we got the one singular copy of Go Triple D Divine Zero King Rage. This card is just a house. This card is absolutely insane. It allows you, so this card basically, with its pendulum effect, you can normal summon a level 5 or higher monster, double D monster or triple D monster, depending on what you have in your hand, without tributing, no matter what. That's its pendulum effect. And not only that, any effect damage you take goes down to 0. You take nothing. You take no damage whatsoever. And the best part is that its monster effect is actually pretty good. So its effect reads: when this card declares an attack, if your opponent's life points is 4,000 or less, you can make this card gain attack equal to your opponent's life points until the end of the turn. And this card cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no damage from battles involving this card. And then it has another effect where it reads that you contribute one of the monster to apply one of the following effects until the end of the turn. This card can attack your opponent directly. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in the back row, and your opponent cannot activate card effects in the hand or graveyard. So this is basically skill drain, soul drain, and mind drain all rolled into one, with that one alone. And you guys wonder, wait a minute, what do skill drain, soul drain, what do they do? I'll read off their effects. So mind drain, so each of them has the effect where it says activate this card by paying 1,000 life points. Mind drain's effect reads: neither player can activate the effects of monsters in the hand. Soul drain's effect reads: monsters that are banished, as well as monsters in the graveyard, cannot activate their effects. Skill drain, we all know what it does: negate the effects of all face-up monsters while they're face up on the field, but their effects can still be activated. So that's what Zero King Rage does. It basically acts as all 3 drain cards in one. And again, with its pen effect, you can normal summon without tributing. So obviously the main cards that you're gonna be summoning the most are cards such as Oblivion, King Abyss, Ragnarok, Chaos King Apocalypse, and even also the new and also too the 6-star monsters that I have in this deck, which I'll get to those later on. You're also gonna be most likely summoning cards such as Double D Sabah Galilei, Thomas, or even also this next one that you could potentially summon, Destiny King Zero Lapis, which this card is just a house. So, but yeah, Zero King Rage, absolutely insane. Will you be using the monster effect? No, because you want to try and have this card in the deck as long as possible. So when you summon, so when you do summon Abyss King Gilgamesh, you can then trigger Gilgamesh's effect, target the Zero King Rage and the Savant Newton, and you basically have your pendulum scale right there. And you could not only could you pen summon, you can also normal summon one of your higher up monsters without a tribute, which is just insane. Next up, as I said, we got the one copy of Triple D Destiny King Zero Lapis. This card is actually pretty decent. I have to admit. I know it's like, I know that some people might not see the card as like really good, but I do. And the effect and its pendulum effect reads: during your main phase, you can add one face up Triple D pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand except this card. You can only use this effect once per turn. So it's basically extra deck Rhoda, basically, which is not too bad. So cards such as your Abyss, your King Abyss, Ragnarok, Savant Kepler, Copernicus, Thomas, Double D Griffin, Orthros, Cerberus, pretty much any of your pendulums, you can add to your hand from the extra, which is pretty insane. Now its monster effect reads: you can special summon this card from your hand by attributing one Triple D monster. Before damage count, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can activate this effect. This card's attack becomes double that opponent's monster's original attack until the end of the damage step. If this card attacks a defense specialist monster, inflict piercing. The first time this card will be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not, and you take no damage from that battle. So basically, it's a way to ensure that your opponent's monster gets destroyed easily, which is just absolutely insane. There ain't much else to say about it. Honestly, there really isn't. Not much else to say about this card. This card is just a house. Obviously, for the most part, you'll be using Lapis as a way to summon out cards, such as Wave Oblivion, King Caesar Ragnarok, even also Flame High King Genghis. You can even also, if you were able to, you can summon a 12-star monster from the extra deck, but there are no 12s in this extra deck, unfortunately. But still, the most part, you're going to be using it as fusion or like material for the most part. Next up, we have two copies of Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. This card is literally one of the best cards in the deck. A lot of people may say that it's a brick, but it's not. It's not a brick if you have Zero King Rage in the back row, in the pendulum zone. If you have Zero King Rage in the pendulum zone, then King Abyss Ragnarok is just gonna be too big of a house. So its pendulum effect reads if you special summon a double D monster except during the damage step, you can target a double D monster in your grave. Any battle damage your opponent takes becomes half for the rest of the turn. Also special summon that monster, and if you do, take 1,000 damage. So this effect acts as a dark contract, if you will. But as long as you have Triple D Oracle King Dark on board, you're not going to be taking any damage at all. You'll just be gaining the life points every turn. So that's just insane. It's just too insane. Now its monster effect reads: if this card is normal special summon, you can target a Triple D monster in your grave, special summon it. And then its other effect reads: once per turn, you contribute one other double D monster that target a monster your opponent controls and banish it. So, excuse me. So with that effect, it acts as as a Cosmic Cyclone Bottomless Trap Hole, which is just too good. And again, even though it has 2,200 attack and 3,000 defense, your main goal for this deck is to make your board using nothing but the extra deck monsters and still be able to keep Zero King Rage and Newton in the Pendulum Zone as your pen skill, if you will, which is just insane. Next up, we have a single copy of Triple D Chaos King Apocalypse. Not one of the best cards, but it can also oftentimes be a brick, but it depends on how you build your deck, if you will. So its Pendulum Effect reads you can banish 2 Double D monsters from your grave, special summon this card from your Pendulum Zone. Yeah, you're not going to be doing that. You will not be doing that at all. Only because of the fact that with Cyphering Lord Omega not in this deck, the only way you're ever going to be banishing cards is off of the second effect. Is off of the second effect of your Double D Swirl Slime and the effect of your Necro Slime, which they both act as your polymerization, if you will. So, but its monster effect though reads: during your opponent's turn, if this card is in your hand or grave, you can target 2 two face-up spell traps you control. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except fiends, and also destroy the targeted cards and special summon this card, which is a quick effect. So it basically lets you just special summon right away. But again, you're gonna be using all of your higher up monsters for your extra deck for the most part. Now we're running a single copy of a brand new card that I didn't realize how good it was until now. It is known as Double D Proud Ogre. You guys are wondering, wait a minute, Proud Ogre, what the fuck does this do? So, Proud Ogre is a 6-star Dark Fiend Pendulum with 2,300 attack, 1,500 defense. Its pen skill is 8, and its Pendulum Effect reads: once per turn, you can pay 500 life points. Then target a Double D monster you control. It gains 500 attack, even if this card leaves the field. Unless you have a Double D monster in the other Pendulum Zone, this card's Pendulum skill becomes 5. I mean, it's not too bad. It's not too bad, but you're not going to be using its Pendulum Effect. You're going to be using this card for its monster effect, which reads: when this card is normal summoned, you can special summon 1 face-up Dark Pendulum monster from your extra deck, but its effects are negated, and you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Double D monsters. Ironically enough, your whole extra deck is nothing but those. But what's cool about this is that you're gonna be using this and one of the other 2 6-star monsters to summon Wave High King Caesar. While it is true that Abyss King Gilgamesh can summon Wave High King Caesar from the extra deck when Gilgamesh is destroyed, you want to try and have materials on King Caesar when you want to trigger its effect, and I'll read its effect once we get to that point. But speaking of 6 stars, the other 6-star monster that I have, because there are 3 of them, this one is called Double D Dog, which is a 6-star Dark Fiend with 2,000 attack and defense, and its pen skill is 3, and the Pendulum Effect reads: you can target a fusion, synchro, or exceeds monster your opponent controls, negate its effects until the end of the turn, then destroy this card. It can only use this effect once per turn. So it basically acts as a sort of like an imperm, but you have to destroy this card when you do so, which is meh. Its monster effect though reads: once per turn, if your opponent special summons a fusion, synchro, or exceeds monster except during the damage step, you can target one of those monsters this turn. That face-up monster cannot attack, and its effects are negated. So it basically acts as a fiendish chain for the whole deck, for it's basically a feed stream for your opponent. It's just too good. It's just too good. Now moving on into the 4-star Pendulum monsters that I have in this deck, other than Savant Copernicus, we have a single copy of Double D Cerberus. This card is actually really good for a couple reasons. One is that you can use him and Orthros to go into the Cursed King Siegfried, which is the only 8-star that I have in the deck. But its Pendulum Effect reads, once per turn you can target a Double D monster you control, change its level to 4, and this card gains 400 attack and defense, even if this card leaves the field. So let's say you want to use, I'll say, Double D Dog as a way to summon out Cursed King Siegfried. You can then activate Cerberus effect, target the dog. It now becomes 4. Dog plus Orthros equals Cursed King Siegfried, but it only works if Cerberus is in the Pendulum Zone, which will not be in there for the most part. The monster effect reads, when this card is Pendulum summoned from the hand, while you control a Double D monster other than Cerberus, you can target a continuous spell in your grave, add it to your hand. Obviously, the only continuous spells that are in this deck are the Dark Contracts, which are Gate, Swamp King, and a very interesting card that I realized how good it was. I didn't realize how good it was until now. Patience, everybody. You'll have to wait. You'll have to wait. But basically, Cerberus, when it's pen summoned, it acts as Graveyard Spell and Trap Rhoda, basically, which is really nice. We got the Orthros, because this card is just insane. So, its Pendulum Effect reads, once per turn you can target a spell trap on the field, and one other DD or Dark Contract card you control, destroy them. So it basically acts as a twin twister, which is pretty cool. Its monster effect reads, when you take battle or effect damage, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned to your field, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except fiends. Your whole extra deck is fiends, so you're pretty much just good to go on there. So yeah. Next up, we have 2 copies of Double D Griffin. This is a new addition to the whole archetype that was released in Battle of Chaos. So its Pendulum Effect reads, you can target one fiend monster you control. It gains 500 attack until the end of the turn for each Dark Contract back spell chart with different names currently on your field. And I didn't realize, hold on guys, I didn't realize it, but I know that so when we were talking about Cerberus, I realized that it said spell. I thought it was continuous spell or trap, and I realized that the continuous trap that I had was Eternal Darkness, so I apologize. Anyway, moving on. Griffin's Pendulum Effect reads, you can target one fiend monster you control. It gains 500 attack until the end of the turn for each Dark Contract spell trap with different names currently on your field or in your grave. Then destroy this card. So basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. There are 6. There are 6 Dark Contracts in this deck, including the 2 in the side. So that's not too bad, but you're using Griffin to summon out Flame King Genghis or pretty much any of your other fusions. So yeah, but its monster effect reads, if you can. Oh, sorry guys, I thought my brother texted me. Anyway, its monster effect reads, if you control a Double D monster, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. If this card is Pendulum Summon, you can discard a DD or Dark Contract card, draw 1 card. If this card is Special Summon from the grave, you can add a DD card from your deck to your hand except this card. So it basically it's basically a Dark World Dealings Stratos. This is basically one of your Stratos for the whole deck. The other Stratos that's in this deck is Kepler, which I'll get to him here in a second. But that's pretty much it for those monsters anyway. Now moving on into the Savants. So we have quite a few of them. So we've got the one copy of Double D Savant Newton, which its Pendulum Effect reads that you're not allowed to pen summon monsters except for DD monsters, and the effect cannot be negated. But it also has the pen effect where it reads, once while this card is in your pen zone, you can negate and activate a trap that would inflict damage to you, then destroy this card. So it basically acts as a way to stop cards such as Ring of Destruction, pretty much any of the Missing Mind burn cards. This card can basically just stop that in its tracks, which is pretty cool. But its monster effect reads, you can discard this card, then target a DD or Dark Contra card in your grave, except this card, add it to your hand. So again, Graveyard Rhoda, not much else to say about that. We got the Double D Savant Thomas. This card is actually pretty nuts. So so the pen effect reads, during your main phase, you can add a face-up Double D Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. So the pen effect is basically extra deck Rhoda, which is just really good. And then its monster effect reads, you can target one DD card, one Double D card in your Pendulum Zone, destroy that card. If you do, special summon a level 8 Triple D monster from your deck in defense position. But for the rest of the turn, its effects, if any, are negated. And any battle damage you take becomes half, or rather your opponent takes, becomes half. You can only use this effect once per turn. Obviously, the main card you're going to be adding to your hand, or rather special summoning, will be the Abyss King. Will be the King Abyss Ragnarok, because that and Thomas are the only two 8-star monsters you have in the main deck. So Ragnarok will be the only one you'll be summoning. But as I said, you'll be using Thomas to fusion summon for the most part. Then of course we have the other 6-star monster, Double D Savant Nicola. Yeah, it's quite the name is quite the resemblance to my actual name, actually. Anyway, that being said, Savant Nicola is a 6-star Dark Fiend, 2000 attack and defense. Pen skill is 8. Pen effect reads, you cannot pen summon monsters except Double D monsters. The effect cannot be negated. Once per turn, you can discard a Triple D monster, target a level 6 or lower Double D monster you control. It gains 2000 attack and defense until the end of the turn, even if this card leaves the field. Monster effect reads, if this card is Pendulum Summon, if this card in the Pendulum Summon is destroyed, you can target a Triple D monster you control, return it to the hand, and place up to 2 face-up Double D monsters from your extra in your Pendulum Zones. They cannot activate their pen effects this turn. So it basically gives you access to another pendulum scale to go into your board and just pop off for a game, which is really nice. Then of course we got the Sabah Galilei. We are only running a single copy. I was running 2 in the last build, but I realized that you only need 1, simply because this card actually acts as a compulse. And you really don't care for its Pendulum Effect, because the Pendulum Effect is very interesting because the pen effect reads, once per turn during your standby phase, increase this card's Pendulum scale by 2, max 10. Then destroy all monsters you control with a level less than or equal to this card's Pendulum scale. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Pretty bad. And then the monster effect is a compulse, which reads, during either player's turn, you can discard this card, target a Double D or Dark Contract card you control, return to the hand. So, It's not too bad, but mainly being used to summon out Gilgamesh or pretty much any of your fusions. And, well, speaking of my brother, he just texted me. Hang on, guys. There we go. There we go. So, next up, we have 2 copies of Doubly Savant Copernicus. So all of the Savants have the same effect, where it reads that you cannot pen summon. Well, with the exception of Thomas, all the other Savants have the effect where it reads you cannot pen summon monsters except DD monsters, which cannot be negated. But Savant Copernicus' other pen effect reads once while this card is in your pen zone, you can negate an activated spell that would inflict damage to you, then destroy this card. So obviously Newton can stop traps, Copernicus can stop spells, and its monster effect reads that if this card is normal or special summon, you can send a DD or Dark Contra card from your deck to your grave except this card, which acts as a foolish burial. So the main card that you would be sending to your graveyard the most would definitely be cards such as the Lamia or the Swirl Slime or the Necro Slime, so you can get their effects off really quickly. So it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And then to round up the pendulums, we got 3 Savant Kepler, which is just insane. The best starter in the deck. So the pen effect is basically the same as Galilei, but a little interesting. This once per turn during your standby phase, reduce this card's pendulum scale by 2, minimum 1. Then destroy all monster control with a level greater than or equal to this card's pendulum scale, except this card. So as long as you build your pen skill with Galilei and Kepler, you're basically going to be balancing you're going to be balancing your board to where you're going to be keeping your board, which is pretty cool. And now for the rest of the Double D monsters, we have a single copy of Baphomet, which basically can manipulate any of your monster's levels except himself, which would grant you access to go into potentially an Exceed summon or even a synchro summon, depending on what you have on board. We have the Double D Ghost, which is literally just insane, an insane card. So this effect reads: if this card is sent to the grave, you can target a DD monster or Dark Contra card in your grave. Except this card, send 1 card from your deck to your grave with that name. If this card is banished, you can target 1 of your banished Double D monsters or Dark Contra cards. Except this card, return it to the graveyard. So it's a nice way for you to continue to use your Swirl Slime's effect, banish it and just automatically, to just automatically use its effect again, banish it, and just go from there, which is absolutely insane. We got the 1 copy of Lamia, which basically acts as a Monster Reborn, but because that is also a tuner, you're allowed to go into cards such as the Gus King Alexander, the Gus High King Alexander, all depending on what monsters you have on board, which is pretty nice. And then we got the 3. Then we have the 3 Swirl Slime and the 2 Necro Slime, which both act as your polymerization, which is pretty nice. And to round up the monsters, we got 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, only because of the fact that, well, it's Ash Blossom and you don't want your opponent to be drawing any cards. Plain and simple. Moving on into the spells. For the one-ofs, we got the 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, the 1 Monster Reborn, and the 1 Callby. Harpy's Feather Duster is back row removal, not much else to say about that. The the Monster Reborn is only in here as your extender. So with this, you can extend to summon out. I'll say the Proud Ogre, and if you have the King Rage on in your pen zone, you can then normal summon the dog and then overlay them together to summon the Wave King Caesar, and then you can activate Xyz's Import, which I am running 2 copies of in the deck to target one of your opponent's monsters and attach it to the Wave High King Caesar, which is just pretty nice. And then Call By. You want your plays to go through. Call By is now in the deck. And then of course too, as I mentioned, we got the two Xyz's Import, just to ensure that your Wave High King Caesar's effect actually triggers, which is pretty nice. And then for the Dark Contract spells, we got the three Dark Contract with the Gate, which basically acts as your Rhoda for the entire deck. Obviously, all of the Dark Contract cards, you do have to take a minimum of 1,000 damage, but that's not too bad if you have. But that's like nothing if you have the Oracle King Dark, in which case you'll be gaining the life points instead. We got the one Dark Contract with the Swamp King, which basically acts as a 6th polymerization, which is pretty nice. And then for the other Dark Contract, it is known as Dark Contract with the Entities. And you guys are wondering, wait a minute, what does this card do? So Entities effect reads, when a Triple D monster of the below card type is special summoned from the extra deck to your field, you can activate the appropriate effect once per turn. Fusion, gain 1,000 life points. Synchro, your opponent cannot target that special summon monster with card effects. Xyz, banish a card from the field or the graveyard. Pendulum, draw a card, then discard 1 card. So it doesn't matter which card you summon. Either way, you're gonna be getting a lot of value out of this one Dark Contract. But the downside to it is that during the standby phase, you have to take 2,000 damage. But if you have Dark on board, you're pretty much just good to go. You're pretty much just good. You're good to go. And then for the field spell, we got the Dark Contract with Patent License. This card is just a house. This card is self-explanatory. I don't have to say anything about it, except that this card can just ensure that your opponent gets dealt 1,000 damage, and not only that, you can also add a double D monster from your graveyard, or a double D pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, which is just really good. And then for the traps. First up, we got the one Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness. This card basically is your protection for the whole deck. So the effect reads, while you have two double D cards in your pen zone, in your pendulum zones, your opponent cannot target monsters on the field with spell or traps, tribute them for a tribute summon, nor use them as material for a fusion, synchro, or Xyz summon. Once per turn, take 1,000 damage. So as long as you're able to keep cards, your pen skill, like the Zero King Rage and the Noon, or the Galilei and Kepler, you're pretty much just off to the races from there. Then of course we got the one Triple D Headhunter, which basically is your Snatch Steal for the whole deck, which is pretty nice. And then we got the 2 copies of Solemn Warning to round up the main deck. For the extra deck, and these cards are pretty self-explanatory, so I'll try and review what each of these cards do. So first up, we've got Triple D Wave Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok. This card is basically your 1,000 Eyes restrict for the whole deck. So what the card does is once per turn, whenever a attack is involved, is declared that involves King Caesar Ragnarok, You can target one other DD or Dark Contra card that you control. You can bounce it to the hand and equip a face-up monster your opponent controls to this card, and he gains attack equal to the combined original attack of the monsters that were equipped to him by this effect. So if you have 3 Dark Contracts, you can bounce them back. You can bounce all 3 back to the hand, and you essentially just have literally one of the most powerful monsters literally on board, depending on what your opponent's board looks like, which is really nice. We have the Triple D Dragon Bang King Beowulf, which basically is your Heavy Storm. Basically, not much else to say about that. We got the Triple D Flame High King Genghis, which is a monster reborn and also a spell and trap negation, which is just absolutely insane. We got the one Triple D Oracle King Dark, which, as I said, anytime you would take damage, you gain that amount of life points instead, which is really nice. And then we have the 2 Flame King Genghis, which not only acts as a monster reborn, but it has another effect where it reads, if this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, target a Dark Contra card in your grave, add it to your hand. So it basically acts as a way to get back, cards, such as Gate or even perhaps your entities, which is just absolutely insane. For the Synchros, we got the Super Doom King Bright Armageddon, and this is going to be quite the interesting card because the pen effect reads that once per turn, whenever your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can target one Triple D Synchro you control, destroy as many monsters your opponent controls as possible with defense less than or equal to the targeted monster. With defense less than or equal to the targeted monster's attack. And then you get to inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent for each monster destroyed. So basically you would need to have High King Alexander on board, which is just crazy. Its monster effect though is really interesting because the effect reads that your opponent cannot target monsters you control with card effects. So any monsters you have on board, they can't be targeted, which is just insane. And it also has the effect where it reads that if another monster is normal special summon while this card is on the field, except during the damage step, you can make your opponent choose one pendulum monster they control, and all other monsters they currently control have their effects negated. And also, if this card is in the monster zone, you can place it in the back row as a pendulum. So basically, it acts as a Dark Ruler no more, which is just really nice. We got the Gus High King Alexander, which not only has a monster reborn effect, but it also has the effect where it says that if 3 or more Triple D monsters are on the board, he gains his attack is double, so it goes up to 6k, which can easily help you win games. We got the Cursed King Siegfried, which basically lets you negate pretty much any back row that's on board once per turn, and if he were to be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can gain 1,000 life points for each Dark Contract card you control. So in a scenario where you don't have Oracle King Dark, but you already gained a pretty decent amount of life points, when Siegfried is destroyed by battle or card effect, you would then gain even more life points, so you basically have yet another turn to basically re-establish your board and just go for game right there. And then to round up the Synchros, we got the Triple D Gus King Alexander, which again has the Monster Reborn effect, which is just absolutely insane. So the effect reads, if another DD monster is normal special summon to your field, while you control this face-up card, except during the damage step, you can target a level 4 lower double D monster in your grave, special summon it. So that's basically it. So again, it's a Monster Reborn for the whole deck, which is really nice. Then for the Exceeds, I'm I'll try and... Whew! Quite... Ow. Sorry guys, I know that I'm a little winded right now. It's like hot as fuck right now here in LA. Even at 9 in the morning, it's still hot. So for the Exceeds monsters, we have Triple D Divisor King Deuce Machinex, which the pen effect to summarize it, it reads that as long as you have a card in your other pendulum zone, you can target a pendulum monster you control or in your grave and special summon it in your other pendulum zone. And if you do, you can place the targeted pendulum monster in your pen zone. So it basically acts as a switch, as a way to switch from the pen zone to the main monster zone, and then take the other monster, go from the main zone to the pendulum zone, which is really nice. And then the monster effect reads that you can also exceed some of this card by using a Triple D monster control as material. So you're going to be using King Gilgamesh for the most part as the way to summon him, but still it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool card. Obviously, you can only control one of this card in the main in the monster zone, and the effect reads: once per chain, when a monster card your opponent controls activates its effect, which is a quick effect, you can either detach 2 materials from this card or destroy a dark contract card you control, and if you do, attach that opponent's card to this card as material. And then, of course, during the standby phase, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. So basically, So if you have Zeus, if you were to have Zeus, this card would just be insane. But fortunately, I don't have Zeus, unfortunately. So, but still, Machinex, awesome card. Then of course we have Duo Don King Kali Yuga. So if you have this card on board, it's essentially GG. It's essentially GG, and you're able to just win games easily with Kali Yuga. Then of course we have the Doom King Dark Armageddon, which its effects are about the same as Bright Armageddon, so I don't really have much to say about that. And then of course Wave High King Caesar, which basically is which basically a Solemn Judgment for the back row, which is really nice. And then of course we got the Abyss King Gilgamesh, helps you set up the Zero King Rage and the Newton for your pendulum scales, which is really nice. Moving on into the side deck. Side deck is just absolutely insane. So we have two copies of Gaddarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, mainly for the Floowandereeze decks. It can actually out the Wind Barrier statue, which is hilarious. We have the Droll and Lockbird to ensure that your opponent does not get any more draws, which is just insane. We have the 2 Ghost Ogre to stop effects that are already on board. We have the 2 Ghost Bell to stop effects that are in the graveyard. We got the single copy of Baron, just in case if something like, say, the Machinex doesn't really work out so well, you can side it out for the Baron, and you're just off to the races there. We got the 2 copies of Twin Twister as even more back row removal. And then of course the traps, we have the Dark Contract with Errors, which basically acts as your Royal Decree for the whole deck, which is really nice. Dark Contract with the Witch basically lets you pop cards on your opponent's board, and it gives all of your fiend monsters 1,000 attack, which is insane. And then the 2 copies of Solemn Strike to round up the main deck. So guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel, hang on guys, something just came up. Hang on. There we go. So as I was saying, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel, you guys want to see more deck profiles in the future, Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you guys do not miss out on any new content that comes your way. And as always, make sure you guys follow me on all of my social media, including my Instagram, because I always post the deck lists on my Instagram. Links will be in the description below. And as always, if you have any fan mail that you guys want to send me and you guys want me to open it up on the channel, all the info will be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.